In the book of Revelation, there's this incredible moment. It's a cosmic crisis, a question of who has the ultimate authority, and a hero who is the complete opposite of what everyone expects. So today we're going to unseal that story.
At the very heart of this whole thing is this single, universe-altering question. Just picture it, a scroll, sealed up tight, and inside is God's entire plan to finally establish His kingdom here on earth. The problem? Opening it requires a level of worthiness that seems absolutely impossible to find.
And that brings us right to the first part of our story, the cosmic crisis. We get teleported basically into the heavenly throne room, where this scene of unbelievable majesty is about to turn into one of total and profound despair.
So yeah, this is not just any old document. This scroll is the key. It's the key to setting everything right, to finally redeeming a broken creation. It is the blueprint for God's final victory over all evil and suffering. I mean, the stakes literally could not be any higher.
And this is the crisis. A search is made across all of existence, and not a single created being, not an angel, not a human, nobody is found to have the authority or the merit to actually put God's plan into action. The entire cosmic project just seems to grind to a halt. But just when all hope seems lost, the crisis is solved by the arrival of a completely unexpected figure, and this leads us to what we're calling the unlikely victor.
This right here reveals the stunning paradox at the heart of the entire story. The Apostle John, who's seeing all this, is told to expect a conquering lion, a symbol of raw royal power. But what he actually sees is a slain lamb, a symbol of sacrifice and weakness. And here's the absolute key insight. In God's kingdom, true authority to change the world doesn't come from power and conquest. It comes from self-giving, sacrificial love.
Now, scholars have a name for this moment. They call it an investiture scene. Don't think of it like a coronation, with a crown and all that. It's more like a formal legal handover of power. This is the moment the Lamb is officially given the exclusive authority to execute the plan locked inside that scroll.
And what's so cool is how this connects way back to the Old Testament. This scene in Revelation is the direct fulfillment of this prophecy from the book of Daniel, where a figure called the Son of Man approaches God, the Ancient of Days, to receive an everlasting kingdom. The Lamb is that figure, finally receiving his kingly authority.
So why? What exactly makes the Lamb worthy when no one else was? Well, it all comes down to one single redemptive act. His sacrifice is presented as a ransom, something that purchased and created a new universal people for God, a kingdom of priests. He basically accomplishes a new exodus, leading all of humanity out of its bondage.
Now, the Lamb's victory doesn't just happen quietly. Him taking the scroll triggers an absolute explosion of praise that echoes through the entire cosmos. So let's take a look at this symphony of creation.
The worship builds in these incredible, ever-widening circles. It starts right at the center, with the beings closest to the throne. Then it expands out to countless angels, and finally, it just erupts into a universal chorus from literally every creature in existence. It's this beautiful picture of all creation finally finding its one unified voice. The praise that's directed specifically at the Lamb is sevenfold: power, wealth, wisdom, strength, honor, glory, and praise. And in the Bible, the number 7 is a big deal. It signifies perfection and completeness. This is the complete and perfect praise that He alone deserves.
And check out this contrast. While the Lamb gets that sevenfold praise for His perfection, the praise coming from creation itself is fourfold. In biblical symbolism, the number 4 is often connected to the physical world. The 4 corners of the earth, the 4 seasons. It's this little detail that beautifully shows that the entirety of the created world is joining in on this cosmic worship service. And this brings us to a theological statement that is just staggering. In a strictly monotheistic worldview, where there is only one God is worthy of worship, period. Yet here, the Lamb, the one who was slain, receives the exact same praise and honor as God on the throne. This is the book's way of showing that the Lamb isn't some second lesser God, but that He participates in the very identity and being of the one God.
Okay, so the Lamb has been declared worthy, and the whole cosmos has celebrated. Now it's time for action. This heavenly ceremony is about to have very real-world consequences, which brings us to our next section,
the plan in motion.
The moment of investiture is over. The Lamb takes the scroll, and the focus, the camera lens, if you will, immediately shifts from the heavenly throne room right back down to earth. He starts to break the 7 seals one by one, and with each broken seal, the contents of God's plan are unleashed.
So, the opening of the first 4 seals. This is where we meet the famous 4 horsemen. Each one represents a devastating force that has always plagued human history. You've got a conqueror on a white horse, war on a red horse, famine on a black horse, and finally, death itself on a pale horse. The point isn't just some far-off apocalypse. It's a symbolic look at the judgment and turmoil already present in the world, now being framed as part of God's unfolding plan.
But it is absolutely crucial that you see this connection. Remember back in the throne room, the elders were holding bowls of incense? Well, we're told that incense represents the prayers of God's people asking for justice and for things to be made right. The breaking of these seals, these judgments, they're presented as God's direct answer to those very prayers.
Now, the seals are just the beginning. This brings us to our final section, where we're going to look at a framework for understanding the pattern of what's still to come. Let's call it Decoding the Cycles of Judgment.
So how do we make sense of this structure, right? We have 7 seals, and then after that, we get 7 trumpets, and then 7 bowls of judgment. Are they just one long chronological sequence, one after another, or is something else going on here?
Well, scholars basically have 3 main ways of looking at this. First, there's the chronological view, simple, linear. A, then B, then C. The seals finish, the trumpets begin, then the bowls begin. Second is the recapitulation view. This one suggests we're seeing the same basic story told 3 different times, each with a different emphasis. Kind of like rewatching a scene from 3 different camera angles. And finally, there's the progressive view, which sees them as overlapping cycles that build on each other, getting more and more intense with each pass.
That progressive intensification view is a really popular and helpful model, and it's based on details in the text itself. The seal judgments affect 1/4 of the earth, the trumpets affect 1/3, and the final bowl judgments are total and unlimited. So it's like a spiral, with each cycle bringing the story closer and closer to its intense final conclusion.
And that leaves us with a final, really powerful question to chew on. The story starts with the crisis that only a slain lamb could solve, and his victory unleashes judgment on the earth. So, if all of this is just the beginning of setting things right, what does the glorious, fully restored, new creation that he is working toward ultimately look like?